senior living is a very localized real estate play. So you got to think about what is it that makes it special, where folks want to move to a community, not have to be uprooted. So meaning, is there a special grocery store? Is there a special church? Or how do you integrate beyond the walls of the property line? How do you make it feel like it's part of the community?
Hello and welcome to AMAR TV, the platform where we spotlight ideas, innovations, and leaders shaping the future of the retirement living industry, wellness, and the longevity economy. My name is Carla Silva, and I'm your host today. I'm a communications specialist and consultant focused on building strategic alliances, business development, and cross-border initiatives in this sector. At AMAR, our mission is to elevate the standard of retirement living by promoting models grounded in dignity, wellness, sustainability, and long-term value creation. We believe the longevity economy is not just about living longer, it's about living better in responsibly designed communities. And today, I am truly honored to welcome our special guest, Siobhan Favardin, partner, Global Practice Director, Senior Living at HKS, a global architectural firm. I will let Siobhan introduce herself and share, and actually pronounce her name properly.
Well, thank you, Carla. It's such an honor to be invited to interview with you. And I love your platform. I love what you stand for, longevity, and really focusing on elevating the senior experience in Latin America. So I'm Siobhan Favardin. I've been practicing architect since 1999, and actually cut my teeth in, it's a saying, that's where I got my background in office, and learned how to put a building together pretty quickly in speculative office. And I've been doing senior housing since 2006. So practicing senior housing, and that contains anything from independent living, memory care, assisted, skilled nursing. We practice, our practice is 27 folks of architects and designers specifically. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
From your global perspective, how has the concept of senior living evolved over the past decade? And what key shifts are shaping its future?
Well, that's a great question. Since I've been in the space, there was a big culture change in the early 2000s. And it was, and I think in a lot of regions and places, people still have the stigma of an old nursing home and more institutional. And so there was a shift that was happening in the late 90s and early 2000s, where it's becoming more lifestyle based. It's really specifically in the United States, Australia is a big advocate for that development also. And what we saw was less healthcare on the outside and more about the living. Because if you think about who the competitor is for senior living communities, it's really the single family home. And so there was a movement to make it feel more residential and less healthcare. We saw changes in materials, less institutional materials, more hospitality-focused materials, and actually the industry had to evolve and change their standards to meet those kind of qualities. For the future, I think there's going to be a lot more movement to make it less homogenized. What we're seeing in the past is a little more homogenized, so meaning a little bit of a same model in various cities and towns. Senior living is a very localized real estate play. So you got to think about what is it that makes it special, where folks want to move to a community, not have to be uprooted. So meaning, is there a special grocery store? Is there a special church? Or how do you integrate beyond the walls of the property line? How do you make it feel like it's part of the community? Most of these communities will be not necessarily in an infill situation. Some of them are. Some of them are in suburban areas. And so they have to be very tailored to the community so that they feel integrated.
Great to hear that you're integrating and you want to have, create spaces for, children and grandchildren to visit grandparents and continue this intergenerational, relationship. So you've spoken extensively about integrating the senior living into a mixed-use development. So this is what you're talking right now. Why is this approach so important? How does this enhance the residents' quality of life, just in general?
Yeah. Well, I think, if you think about what the most dangerous thing, even I think they're saying this is more dangerous than smoking, is isolation. So loneliness. And can a senior live in their single family home or, by themselves? Sure. Will their quality of life be as vibrant? I don't know. And in the early 2000s, we saw a lot of autonomous gated estate communities. So like picture it's behind a gate, it's walled off, it's not integrated. That's great for if you're looking at just under the roof of this community. But if you are thinking about how do you make seniors feel seen, then you really want to make that perforated edge around the property line. You really want to have that integration of, I'm part of a bigger picture. I'm part of a bigger aspect and still involved in the community. So it really gives them a sense of dignity. It gives them autonomy in a sense, because they feel like they're not losing agency. They're still part of a bigger picture.
And so right now you're talking about, some of the design. So what design elements have the greatest impact on the physical, emotional, and the social well-being of the residents in senior living communities?
I think the spaces that create what we call water cooler moments, and meaning there's kind of this serendipitous moment where we don't intend to meet with folks, and so the water cooler moment, meaning that I go up to a water cooler and I see Sarah or I see John, and then we have a conversation about XYZ, and now we're having another conversation. So that's like in the office space, what we call water cooler moment. If you can create that in a senior living setting, breaking down those barriers. So for example, we did a community that was great during COVID. They never anticipated that this would be helpful because nobody anticipated COVID. We created a bistro, and it was the desire of the clients that they really wanted a place that was, one, a great place for the senior living residents, but two, also a place where the staff could feel like they were appreciated, and a place where they could also create friendship with the residents. And what happened is when everything was shut down during COVID, when families couldn't visit their loved ones, the staff became surrogate family to the residents. And that's because they had a space that was really elevated. It was the heartbeat of this community where they could mix and mingle. So kind of like the water cooler moments where they could bump into each other, ask about their family, and vice versa. So those kind of spaces that create different dialogues with different people, I think are very special.
Now, I mean, I know that the company works globally, and you also have experience globally. In terms of Mexico and Central America, Latin America, what opportunities do you see emerging, and what should developers in the region prioritize or avoid when adapting international senior living models?
Yeah, that's a, and can you repeat the question, please?
So just, going to Mexico and Central America. So
Uh-huh.
what opportunities do you see emerging in Mexico and Central America? And also, what should developers in the region prioritize or avoid when adapting international senior living models?
Mhm. Well, I think it's a nascent typology, meaning that it's very new. You have the opportunity to really set the bar. You don't have to look at the past. You don't have to look at what's happening today. You have the opportunity to really set the bar high. And so I think when we think about Latin America, when we think about Mexico culture, we think family is so important. Spending time and making sure that you're taking care of your loved ones. And that may not be, if you think of American culture, it's different. We're a little more autonomous, and I will take care of myself. I don't want my kids to have to take care of me. But every culture is different. And so I think there's an opportunity really to embrace in Latin America and Mexico to integrate and get more intergenerational, which quite frankly, I think is the movement. And so you can really be tip of the spear in longevity. I think there's also, we're seeing opportunities where there can be taking advantage of the agriculture. You've got such rich agriculture. You can do farm to table approach where you're really cultivating the land and making that an amenity to residents and to the culinary staff. You've got an opportunity for the residents, the citizens of Latin America and the citizens of Mexico. There's also an opportunity for expats because, quite frankly, healthcare is becoming more expensive. It's not getting any cheaper in the United States, and there's becoming less and less opportunity for reimbursements when it comes to care. So the private care world is getting more expensive. And as that happens, people are going to be looking for opportunity. Where can I feel like I can have the lifestyle that I want and at a cost that I can afford? So I think there's going to be movement to places like Chapala, Mexico City, Guadalajara. I think or Panama, we're even seeing opportunities there. I think you can really be the tip of the spear when it comes to what's the next wave.
That's great. So looking ahead, and from what you were mentioning, what types of senior living projects do you believe will be the most successful over the next decade? And how does design influence long-term value and returns?
Okay. Well, I think when we look ahead, we want to be careful to balance what's hospitality and wellness. We want to make sure that this is still known as this is a place where you live. It's a place for living. I think the most successful ones that we see today and that we will see in the future are ones that we can say, I didn't know that was senior living. That's interesting because then you're going to get folks that are going to be coming there and wanting to be there, knocking on the door. How can I live here? And I actually saw this in Australia. There was a beautiful, one of the nicest senior living communities I've ever seen. It did not look like senior housing. It had a casino. It had a food hall. It had child daycare. It had a cryo clinic. Very wellness focus. Very, very vibrant. It did not look like senior care on the surface, but that was the primary use. It was senior care, and I think those are the kinds of communities that will be embraced. People will desire that kind of product, that real estate product, to come into their mixed use development. I think this, if you look at the demographics, I mean, we're all aging. The birth rate is getting lower and lower. We're becoming a progressively aging population. If anybody is looking for, any investor is looking at where to deploy their investment, it's a very smart move to look at senior housing. The next 10 years, the next even 20 years, it's going to be very lucrative for a lot of people. I think, that you have to be careful about getting a very seasoned operator. It's not something that you want to dabble with after the fact. So making sure that you have a senior living operator that knows what the market is, knows what the local market is, and knows how to operate effectively from an early stage of the design is very key. You don't want to do this after the fact, because they will be left with something that may not work, or something that doesn't agree with them, or the absorption rate of the product will not take to the location. So having a savvy operator, having a good market analysis, and knowing the local real estate market is key.
In AMAR, we're creating this community that actually we're voicing out what I say is always, we need to build the communities where we want to retire.
Yes.
Like maybe before it's like, this is what it is and this is where you go next. No, now I wanted to have this, and because now we're kind of participating of what you said, there's nothing written, right? We're reinventing or redesigning these spaces where we want to, live. Maybe, now that we're living longer, we're going to be there for a long time. And also something that I mentioned is you need to start building these communities early on. So you don't get there when you're already too old to build this kind of family that they're actually going to be the ones surrounding you. And again, being participant on the design or what, people are looking for. So we're very excited to, that you're going to be participating at the AMAR 2026 in Mexico City. Can you please share about your participation at our conference?
Yes. So HCAS will have a panel. We're going to have a seasoned operator, Jim Biggs, will be speaking. He's worked in the States and internationally, did a lot of work in China when they did not have a senior living product at all. He helped them establish what was good for that culture. And we'll also have Melissa Orth, former CEO at Legacy Senior Communities. I worked with her extensively on a new development, ground up development. And then Gabby Espinoza, who is my protege. She's been working with us ever since she graduated from University of Houston, and has been loving senior living ever since. So we've got a great panel, great lineup, and also JLL, big real estate developer, and very global. So they will be joining us also.
Well, that's exciting. So, thank you so much for sharing your experience. And so, are you going to be there?
I will be there. Yes,
Okay,
I
great.
look forward to seeing you and others. It will be my first time in Mexico City, and I'm very excited about the culinary experience there. So I've heard it's great. So thank you very much for the invitation, Carla.
Yeah, thank you very much. And to all our viewers, thank you for joining us. And if you find this conversation valuable, we invite you to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow AMAR TV, where for more conversations about retirement living, wellness, and sustainable communities. And also, we invite you to join us in AMAR 2020, October 21st and 22nd in Mexico City. We hope to see you there. And thank you again, and see you in Mexico City. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. Ciao.